The research vessel Liberty's Edge drifted through the empty darkness of space near the Kepler 442 system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the stars through the main view screen while his crew worked at their stations. The ship had been conducting routine xenobiology surveys for 3 weeks, and the crew was getting restless. They had found nothing more exciting than some basic microorganisms on a few dead moons. Lisa Carter sat at the communications console running her fingers through her brown hair as she monitored the usual chatter from nearby space stations. The soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of various instruments created a peaceful atmosphere that was broken when her console suddenly lit up with activity. "Captain Morrison, I'm picking up something strange," Lisa called out as she adjusted her headset and leaned forward to study the readouts. "It's a signal coming from the asteroid field about 2 light hours from our position." Jake walked over to her station and looked at the display showing wave patterns unlike anything in their databases. The signal pulsed in a complex rhythm that seemed almost musical, with rising and falling tones that created an intricate melody. "What kind of signal is it?" "I've never seen anything like this before," Lisa replied while running the transmission through various filters. "It's definitely artificial, but it doesn't match any known communication protocols. The pattern keeps repeating every few minutes, but there are subtle variations each time, like it's trying to adapt or find a frequency we can understand." Danny Rodriguez looked up from his science station where he had been cataloging mineral samples from their last survey. His dark eyes showed curiosity as he listened to the conversation. "Can you route it through the xenobiology analysis system? Maybe it's from some kind of life form we haven't encountered before." Lisa nodded and transferred the signal to Danny's station. The chief science officer put on his own headset and began running detailed scans of the transmission. His fingers moved quickly across the controls as he applied various analytical filters to decode the mysterious message. "This is incredible," Danny said after several minutes of analysis. "The signal is coming from inside the asteroid field, but it's not from any ship or station that I can identify. The source appears to be organic in nature, and it's massive." "We're talking about something nearly a kilometer in length?" Jake raised his eyebrows at this news. In his 15 years of space exploration, he had never encountered anything that large that was still alive. "Are you saying there's a living creature trapped in that asteroid field?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," Danny confirmed while bringing up a long-range scan on the main view screen. "Look at these readings. There's definitely a biological signature, but it's unlike anything in our databases. The creature appears to be caught within some kind of crystalline formation that's preventing it from moving." The image on the screen showed a dense field of asteroids with strange crystal formations growing between them like a massive web. Deep within the center of this formation, they could see the outline of something enormous. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed across its surface in the same rhythm as the distress signal they were receiving. Amy Foster looked up from her engineering station where she had been monitoring the ship's systems. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her blue eyes showed concern. "Captain, if that thing has been trapped for a while, it might be in serious danger. Those crystals could be toxic, or they might be draining its energy. Can we get closer to take better readings?" Jake asked while studying the creature on the screen. The being appeared to have a sleek, elongated body with what looked like fins or appendages along its sides. The bioluminescent patterns were beautiful, but they seemed to be growing dimmer as they watched. "We can try," Amy replied while checking their navigation systems. "But that asteroid field is pretty dense, and those crystal formations might interfere with our sensors and communications." Jake made his decision quickly. "Set course for the asteroid field. We need to get close enough to perform detailed scans and figure out what we're dealing with." As the Liberty's Edge changed course toward the mysterious signal, Lisa contacted the nearest Galactic Council station to report their discovery. The response came back within an hour, and it was not what they had expected. "Liberty's Edge, this is Commander Zeth Carr of the Vortanian fleet stationed at Kepler Station 7, came the cold voice through the communications system. "We are aware of the creature you have detected. It is what your species would call Avoid Leviathan, and it has been trapped in that location for approximately 4 months. 4 months? Jake responded with surprise. Why hasn't anyone attempted a rescue operation? Because void leviathans are considered dangerous pests by most civilized species, Zethkar replied with obvious disdain in his voice. They are massive, space-dwelling creatures that interfere with shipping lanes, and their bioelectric fields can disrupt sensitive equipment. The cost and risk of attempting to free one is not justified. Lisa looked shocked at this casual dismissal of a living being in distress. But it's obviously intelligent and it's calling for help. We can't just leave it to die. Several species have already evaluated the situation and determined that rescue is not feasible. The Vorkanian commander continued. The creature is caught in an ancient crystalline trap that would require specialized equipment and considerable risk to disable. We recommend that you continue with your original mission and avoid the asteroid field. Jake felt anger rising in his chest at the alien's cold attitude. Are you telling me that multiple species have just decided to let this creature die because it's inconvenient to save it? That is correct, Zethkar confirmed. Void leviathans live for thousands of years and reproduce slowly. The loss of one individual is not significant from a species preservation standpoint. I suggest you reconsider any rescue attempt, as it would be both dangerous and pointless. The communication ended and the bridge fell silent as the crew processed what they had just heard. Jake looked around at his team and saw the same disgust and determination in their faces that he felt in his own heart. Captain, Danny said quietly, the creature's bioluminescent patterns are definitely getting weaker. If we're going to do something, we need to act fast. Jake nodded and turned to address his crew. I know what the Galactic Council says, but I'm not willing to abandon a sentient being that's calling for help. We're going to investigate this situation and see if there's anything we can do. Amy smiled and started running calculations on her engineering console. I'll begin analyzing the crystalline formation to see if there's a way to safely extract the creature. I'll keep monitoring the distress signal and try to establish some kind of communication, Lisa added with determination. And I'll run every scan I can think of to learn more about this void leviathan. Danny concluded. As the Liberty's Edge approached the asteroid field, the crew could see the trapped creature more clearly. It was truly massive, with a graceful form that seemed designed for traveling through space. The bioluminescent patterns across its hide pulsed in complex sequences that seemed to convey both pain and hope. The distress signal continued to broadcast its haunting melody into the void, while the crew of the Liberty's Edge prepared to do what apparently no other species in the galaxy was willing to do. They were going to try to save a life that others had written off as worthless. The Liberty's Edge moved slowly through the outer edge of the asteroid field while the crew worked frantically to understand what they were dealing with. Captain Jake Morrison had made his decision to attempt a rescue despite the warnings from the Galactic Council, but he knew they needed more information before they could take any action. Danny Rodriguez hunched over his science console, running every scan he could think of on the trapped creature. The readings were unlike anything he had ever seen before, and each new discovery made the situation more complex. Captain, I'm getting some incredible data here, he called out while studying the bioelectric patterns emanating from the void. Leviathan, what have you found? Jake asked as he walked over to examine the readings on Danny's screen. The creature's neural activity is off the charts, Danny explained while highlighting different sections of the scan. Its brain patterns are more complex than anything in our databases, including some of the most advanced species we've encountered. This isn't just an animal, Captain. This is a highly intelligent being. Lisa Carter continued monitoring the distress signal and noticed something that made her heart race. The signal is getting weaker, she announced with concern. The intervals between transmissions are getting longer and the amplitude is decreasing. I think the creature is running out of energy. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Earth Command had sent them on a routine survey mission, and now they were facing a rescue operation that could put his entire crew at risk. But looking at the trapped creature on the view screen, he knew he couldn't walk away. Amy, what's your assessment of the crystalline formation? he asked while turning to his chief engineer. Amy Foster looked up from her console where she had been analyzing the strange crystal structures that held the Void Leviathan prisoner. Her expression was grim as she shared her findings. "It's not natural, Captain. These crystals are some kind of containment system probably built by an ancient civilization. The energy signatures suggest it was designed specifically to trap large, space-dwelling creatures. Can we break it?" Jake asked directly. "Maybe," Amy replied while running more calculations. "But it won't be easy. The crystalline matrix is incredibly strong and it's drawing power from the creature itself. The longer the Void Leviathan stays trapped, the stronger the crystals become." Kevin Walsh looked up from his medical station where he had been studying the creature's biological readings. The ship's doctor was a quiet man with gray hair and kind eyes who had dedicated his life to helping others. "Captain, the creature is definitely dying. Its life signs are weakening and I'm detecting signs of toxicity in its system. Those crystals are slowly poisoning it." Jake nodded grimly and opened a communication channel to Earth Command. He needed to report the situation and request permission to proceed with a rescue attempt. The response came back within 2 hours and it was not encouraging. "Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Parker at Earth Command," came the stern voice through the communications system. "We've received reports from the Galactic Council regarding your current situation. You are ordered to abandon any rescue attempt and continue with your original mission." "Admiral, we're talking about a highly intelligent being that's slowly dying," Jake replied with frustration. "We can't just leave it to suffer when we might be able to help." "The risk to your crew and ship is too great," Admiral Parker responded firmly. "The Galactic Council has made it clear that these creatures are dangerous and multiple species have already determined that rescue is not feasible. You will proceed to your next survey location immediately." Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he maintained his professional tone. "With respect, Admiral, I believe we have a moral obligation to at least try to help." "Your obligation is to follow orders, Captain," the Admiral replied coldly. "Earth Command will not support any unauthorized rescue operations that could damage our relations with the Galactic Council." The communication ended and Jake stood in the middle of his bridge feeling the weight of an impossible decision. His orders were clear, but his conscience was equally clear. He looked around at his crew and saw the same conflict in their faces. "Captain," Susan Brooks spoke up from her pilot station. The young woman had been quietly listening to the conversation while running navigation calculations. "I've been studying the asteroid field and I think I can get us close enough to attempt a rescue. The crystals might be strong, but they're also brittle in certain places." "That's not the point, Susan," Jake replied while running his hands through his hair. "Earth Command has ordered us to abandon the rescue." "Then maybe we should have a communication malfunction," Lisa suggested with a slight smile. "It might take several hours to reestablish contact with Earth Command." Jake looked at his communications officer with surprise. "Are you suggesting we disobey a direct order?" "I'm suggesting we follow the oath we all took when we joined the space service," Lisa replied seriously. "To protect and defend all sentient life regardless of species or origin." Amy nodded in agreement. "I didn't become an engineer to watch intelligent beings die when I have the skills to help them," Kevin added his support. "As a doctor, I swore to do no harm. Walking away from this situation would violate everything I believe in." Danny looked up from his science station where he had been continuing his analysis of the Void Leviathan. "Captain, I've discovered something else. The creature isn't just transmitting a distress signal. It's trying to communicate with us directly." "What do you mean?" Jake asked while moving to examine Danny's readings. "The bioelectric patterns aren't random," Danny explained excitedly. "They're responding to our presence. When we moved closer, the patterns changed, and when Lisa transmitted a test signal, the creature altered its response. It knows we're here, and it's trying to establish communication." "That's impossible," Jake said with amazement. "Our species have never encountered Void Leviathans before." "That's what makes this so incredible," Danny continued. "The creature is adapting its communication method to try to reach us. It's demonstrating not just intelligence, but also hope." It believes we might be different from the other species that have abandoned it. Jake felt his resolve strengthening as he looked at the trapped creature on the view screen. The bioluminescent patterns were still pulsing weakly, but they seemed to brighten slightly when the ship moved closer. "All right," he said finally. "Lisa, I want you to have that communication malfunction with Earth Command. Amy, start working on a plan to safely extract the creature. Danny, keep trying to establish better communication. Kevin, prepare the medical. Bay for any injuries during the rescue attempt." "What about the Galactic Council?" Susan asked while preparing to navigate deeper into the asteroid field. "Let them try to stop us," Jake replied with determination. "We're going to save this creature even if we have to do it alone." As the Liberty's Edge moved deeper into the asteroid field, the crew began preparations for the most dangerous rescue mission of their careers. The trapped Void Leviathan continued its weakening calls for help, while the humans who had found it prepared to risk everything to answer those calls. The Liberty's Edge moved carefully through the dangerous asteroid field while Susan Brooks piloted the ship with steady hands. The young pilot had to navigate between floating rocks and crystal formations that could easily damage their hull if she made even the smallest mistake. Captain Jake Morrison stood behind her, watching the main view screen as they approached the trapped Void Leviathan. "Distance to target is now 5 kilometers, Susan announced while adjusting their course to avoid a particularly large asteroid. The crystal formations are getting denser, and I'm reading some kind of energy field surrounding the creature." Amy Foster monitored her engineering console and frowned at the readings she was seeing. "Captain, those crystals are definitely artificial. They're generating a containment field that's designed to hold something this size. The energy patterns suggest this trap was built by a very advanced civilization." Danny Rodriguez continued his analysis of the creature's bioelectric signals and made a discovery that excited him. "I'm getting clearer communication patterns now that we're closer. The creature is definitely trying to talk to us, and it's learning to modify its signals to match our technology." "What kind of things is it saying?" Jake asked while studying the pulsing lights on the massive creature's hide. "It's hard to translate exactly, but the basic message seems to be a plea for help, mixed with warnings about something dangerous," Danny replied while running the signals through various translation programs. "There's also something that might be gratitude. I think it's thanking us for not abandoning it like the others did." Lisa Carter worked at her communications station, trying to establish a clearer link with the creature when her console suddenly lit up with new signals. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple ships approaching our position. They're coming in fast and they don't look friendly." Jake felt his stomach drop as he looked at the tactical display showing 6 large vessels moving toward their location. "Can you identify them?" "It's the Hegemony Fleet," Lisa replied with concern. "Admiral Raxler is commanding the lead ship, and he's sending us a message." The main view screen switched to show the angular face of Admiral Raxler, a member of the militant Draconi species that led the Hegemony Alliance. His yellow eyes glowed with anger as he spoke. "Human vessel, you are interfering with a containment operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." "Admiral, we're conducting a rescue mission," Jake replied while trying to keep his voice steady. "There's an intelligent creature trapped here that needs help." "The Void Leviathan is not trapped," Raxler said with contempt. "It is contained for the safety of all civilized species. These creatures are dangerous parasites that threaten shipping lanes and space stations throughout the galaxy." Amy looked up from her analysis of the containment system with shock. "Captain, I don't think this creature was accidentally trapped. The crystal formation is too precise and the energy patterns are too controlled. Someone deliberately imprisoned it here." Jake felt anger rising in his chest as he realized the implications. "Are you saying this creature was captured and left here to die?" "Void Leviathans are a menace," Admiral Raxler continued his transmission. "They consume energy from ships and stations, interfere with communications, and their size makes them hazardous to navigation. This particular specimen was causing problems in the Vega system, so we relocated it to this remote location." "You mean you trapped it here and abandoned it?" Jake said with disgust. You're talking about a sentient being, not some piece of garbage to be disposed of. Your species' emotional attachment to inferior life forms is well known, the Admiral replied, coldly. But we will not allow you to release this creature so it can continue causing problems. Withdraw now, or we will destroy both you and the Leviathan. The communication ended, and Jake found himself facing the most difficult decision of his career. The Hegemony fleet had superior firepower and could easily destroy the Liberty's Edge if they chose to fight. But the thought of abandoning the trapped creature to die was equally unacceptable. "Captain," Kevin Walsh spoke up from his medical station, "I'm detecting massive trauma in the creature's nervous system. It's not just physically trapped, it's been psychologically tortured. The containment field is designed to cause pain and fear." "That's barbaric," Susan said with horror. While maintaining their position near the creature, how can intelligent species justify torturing another sentient being? Danny made another breakthrough in his communication efforts. "Captain, I'm getting clearer messages now. The creature is trying to warn us about something. It keeps transmitting data about space phenomena and star charts that I don't recognize." "What kind of phenomena?" Jake asked while keeping one eye on the approaching Hegemony ships. "It's hard to understand, but it seems to be related to dark matter and cosmic storms," Danny replied while trying to decode the complex information. "The creature appears to have knowledge about space that we've never encountered before." Amy completed her analysis of the containment system and looked up with determination. "Captain, I think I can disable the crystal formation, but it will take time and we'll need to get much closer to the creature." "How much time?" Jake asked while calculating their options. "At least an hour to safely overload the containment field, without harming the creature," Amy replied. "But the Hegemony fleet will be in weapons range in 15 minutes. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same resolve in their faces that he felt in his own heart. They had come too far to give up now. "Susan, move us into position near the creature. Amy, start your work on the containment field. Danny, keep trying to communicate with the Leviathan. Lisa, see if you can contact other human ships in the area." "Captain, Earth Command specifically ordered us not to attempt this rescue," Lisa reminded him. "Then it's a good thing we're having communication problems," Jake replied with a slight smile. "Besides, I'd rather face a court-martial than live with the knowledge that we abandoned an intelligent being to die." As the Liberty's Edge moved closer to the trapped Void Leviathan, the creature's bioluminescent patterns began to pulse more brightly. The communication signals became clearer and more complex, as if the creature was gaining hope from their presence. "The Leviathan is responding to our approach," Danny announced excitedly. "It's trying to share information about the cosmic phenomena it was warning about. I think it's been trying to protect the galaxy from some kind of threat. A threat that the Hegemony fleet apparently doesn't want to hear about," Jake said grimly as he watched the enemy ships approaching on the tactical display. Amy began her work on the containment field while the crew prepared for what might be their final mission. The trapped creature continued its desperate attempts to communicate while the humans who had found it prepared to risk everything to set it free. The bioluminescent patterns on the creature's hide seemed to pulse with new energy as it sensed the rescue attempt beginning. For the first time in months, the ancient being known as a Void Leviathan had found others who were willing to listen to its warnings and help it survive. The Hegemony fleet moved into attack position while the Liberty's Edge held its ground near the trapped Void Leviathan. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as 6 heavily armed ships formed a battle line that could destroy his vessel with a single coordinated strike. The weight of his decision pressed down on him, but he refused to abandon the creature that had been calling for help. "Captain, the Hegemony ships are powering up their weapons," Lisa Carter announced from her communications station while monitoring the enemy transmissions. "Admiral Raxler is demanding that we withdraw immediately or face destruction." "How much time do you need, Amy?" Jake asked while keeping his eyes on the approaching enemy ships. Amy Foster worked frantically at her engineering console, trying to find a way to disable the crystalline containment field without harming the trapped creature. "I need at least 40 minutes to safely overload the system," she replied while running calculations. But I think I can speed up the process if we can get closer to the power source. Susan Brooks maneuvered the Liberty's Edge carefully through the crystal formations while avoiding the energy fields that surrounded the void Leviathan. I can get us within 2 kilometers, but any closer and we risk being caught in the containment field ourselves. Danny Rodriguez continued his efforts to communicate with the creature and made another breakthrough. Captain, the Leviathan is trying to help us. It's sending me technical data about the containment system that might help Amy disable it faster. What kind of data? Amy asked while studying the new information appearing on her screen. It looks like structural weaknesses in the crystal matrix, Danny replied excitedly. The creature has been studying this prison for months and it knows exactly where the system is most vulnerable. Jake felt a surge of hope as he realized they might actually have a chance to succeed. Amy, can you use that information to speed up the process? Definitely, Amy confirmed while adjusting her approach, based on the Leviathan's guidance. With this data, I can target the weak points directly. I might be able to free the creature in 20 minutes instead of 40. Captain, we have a problem, Lisa announced while monitoring long-range communications. The Hegemony fleet is jamming our transmissions, but I'm picking up something else. There are more ships approaching from the outer system. Jake's heart sank as he imagined even more enemy vessels arriving to stop their rescue attempt. More Hegemony ships? No, sir, Lisa replied with surprise. They're human vessels. I'm reading transponder codes from the cargo ship Plains Runner, the research vessel New Horizon, and the passenger liner Star Wanderer. What are civilian ships doing out here? Jake asked with confusion. They're responding to our earlier transmissions, Lisa explained while trying to boost their signal through the jamming. Word about the rescue attempt has spread through the human colonial network. These ships are coming to help. Kevin Walsh looked up from his medical station where he had been monitoring the Void Leviathan's vital signs. Captain, the creature's condition is stabilizing. I think it's gaining strength from knowing that help is finally coming. The main view screen showed the massive creature's bioluminescent patterns pulsing more brightly than they had since the rescue began. The complex light displays seemed to convey both hope and gratitude as the ancient being sensed that its long imprisonment might finally be ending. Admiral Raxler is transmitting again, Lisa announced while routing the communication. To the main screen, the angular face of the Draconi commander appeared with his yellow eyes blazing with fury. Human Captain, you have ignored our warnings and now you face the consequences. We will destroy your vessel and the Leviathan to prevent this threat from spreading. The only threat here is your willingness to torture an innocent creature, Jake replied with controlled anger. This being has been imprisoned and left to die for months while you claimed it was too dangerous to approach. Void Leviathans are parasites that feed on energy and disrupt civilized space, Admiral Raxler responded coldly. This particular specimen was causing problems in 3 different star systems before we contained it. Or maybe it was trying to warn those systems about something important. Jake shot back while thinking about the creature's attempts to share information about cosmic phenomena. Danny made another breakthrough in his communication efforts with the Leviathan. Captain, I'm getting clearer messages now. The creature is trying to warn us about a massive dark matter storm approaching this sector. It's been trying to tell everyone about this threat for months. A dark matter storm? Jake asked while trying to understand the implications. It's a cosmic phenomenon that can devastate entire star systems, Danny explained while studying the data the creature was sharing. The Leviathan has detailed knowledge about when and where it will strike. This creature isn't a threat, it's been trying to save lives. Amy completed her analysis of the containment system using the technical data provided by the Void Leviathan. Captain, I'm ready to begin the overload sequence. The creature has shown me exactly how to disable the crystal matrix without causing an explosion. Do it, Jake ordered while watching the Hegemony ships move closer to attack position, the Liberties. Edge began transmitting focused energy pulses at the weak points in the crystalline formation. The ancient prison started to crack and fracture as centuries of accumulated energy was released in controlled bursts. The trapped creature's bioluminescent patterns flared brighter as it sensed its freedom approaching. The civilian ships are almost in range, Lisa announced while monitoring the approaching human vessels. They're requesting permission to assist with the rescue. Tell them to maintain a safe distance, Jake replied while keeping his attention on the delicate extraction process. We don't want to put innocent people at risk. Captain, the hegemony fleet is moving to attack position, Susan warned while preparing evasive maneuvers. They're going to fire whether we complete the rescue or not. Admiral Raxler's voice came through the communications system one final time. You have made your choice, human. The hegemony fleet will not allow this threat to be released. All ships prepare to fire. The crystalline containment field began to collapse as Amy's carefully targeted energy pulses shattered the ancient prison. The massive void Leviathan started to move for the first time in months, its graceful form undulating through space as it tested its freedom. The creature is free, Amy announced with excitement. The containment field has been completely disabled. The void Leviathan's bioluminescent patterns exploded with brilliant light as it celebrated its liberation. The complex display of colors and patterns seemed to convey pure joy and gratitude to the humans who had refused to abandon it. Hegemony ships are firing, Lisa shouted as energy weapons lit up the asteroid field around them. Jake gripped his command chair as the battle began. The Liberty's Edge had succeeded in freeing the trapped creature, but now they faced the consequences of defying one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. The ancient being they had saved would soon discover whether its rescuers would survive long enough to hear the warnings it had been trying to share. Energy beams from the hegemony fleet lit up the asteroid field as the battle began around the newly freed void Leviathan. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair while Susan Brooks threw the Liberty's Edge into evasive maneuvers to avoid the incoming weapons fire. The massive creature they had just rescued moved with surprising grace through the crystal debris, its bioluminescent patterns flashing in what seemed like confusion and fear. Shields at 60%, Amy Foster called out as another energy blast struck their hull. Those hegemony ships pack serious firepower and we can't take much more of this. The freed void Leviathan suddenly moved between the Liberty's Edge and the attacking fleet, using its enormous body as a shield to protect the human ship. The creature's hide absorbed several direct hits from the hegemony weapons without showing any visible damage. The Leviathan is protecting us, Danny Rodriguez announced with amazement while monitoring the creature's bioelectric signals. It's deliberately putting itself between us and the enemy fire. Lisa Carter worked frantically at her communications station, trying to coordinate with the approaching human civilian ships. The Plains Runner, New Horizon, and Star Wanderer are almost in range. They're requesting permission to assist with defensive operations. Tell them to stay back, Jake ordered while watching the tactical display. These are civilian vessels, with no weapons or shields. They'll be destroyed if they get involved in this fight. The void Leviathan's bioluminescent patterns suddenly changed to a brilliant red warning display that pulsed across its entire kilometer-long body. Danny's translation equipment went wild as the creature began transmitting urgent messages on every frequency it could access. Captain, the Leviathan is broadcasting some kind of emergency warning, Danny said while trying to decode the complex signals. It's directing the message toward the edge of the star system and the intensity is increasing every second. Warning about what? Jake asked while ducking as another enemy blast shook the ship. The dark matter storm, Danny replied with growing excitement. The creature is detecting the leading edge of the phenomenon approaching faster than expected. According to these readings, the storm will reach this system within hours, not days. Admiral Raxler's face appeared on the main viewscreen looking furious as his weapons continued to miss their targets. Human vessel, order that creature to stop its transmissions immediately. Those signals are interfering with our targeting systems and navigation computers. Maybe that's the point, Jake replied while realizing that the void Leviathan was using its bioelectric abilities to disrupt the hegemony ships. This creature is a lot smarter than you gave it credit for. The massive being continued its protective positioning around the Liberty's edge, while broadcasting increasingly urgent warnings about the approaching cosmic storm. Its bioluminescent displays became so bright they illuminated the entire asteroid. Field like a beacon calling for attention. Kevin Walsh monitored his medical sensors and made a disturbing discovery. Captain, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations at the edge of the system. Something big is coming and it's affecting space-time itself. Amy checked her engineering readings and confirmed the doctor's findings. The gravitational fields are shifting, and I'm detecting dark matter concentrations that shouldn't exist in normal space. Whatever this storm is, it's already starting to affect local physics. The civilian ships that had come to help suddenly found themselves in the path of something far more dangerous than a military battle. The Plains Runner, a cargo vessel carrying supplies to outer colonies, began experiencing navigation problems as dark matter interfered with their guidance systems. Captain Morrison, this is Captain Barnes of the Plains Runner, came a worried voice over the communications channel. Our instruments are going crazy and we're having trouble maintaining course. What's happening out here? Before Jake could respond, the Void Leviathan turned toward the civilian ships and began transmitting detailed navigation data directly to their computers. The ancient creature somehow knew exactly how to compensate for the dark matter interference, and was sharing that knowledge with the human vessels. The Leviathan is helping them navigate through the storm effects, Danny announced with wonder. It's transmitting real-time corrections for gravitational fluctuations and dark matter density variations. The hegemony fleet found their situation becoming increasingly difficult as the approaching storm began to affect their own ships. Admiral Raxthor's vessels started experiencing the same navigation problems that had plagued the civilian ships. But they didn't have the benefit of the Void Leviathan's guidance. "All hegemony ships, this is Admiral Raxthor," came the frustrated transmission. "Cease fire and withdraw to minimum safe distance. The cosmic disturbance is interfering with our weapon systems. Admiral, you need to listen to what this creature is trying to tell you," Jake called out over the communication channel. "The Void Leviathan has been warning about this dark matter storm for months. It's not your enemy, it's trying to save lives." "Void Leviathans are dangerous parasites," the Admiral replied stubbornly even as his ship struggled with the storm effects. "We will not be deceived by their apparent intelligence." The cosmic phenomenon continued to intensify as dark matter. Clouds began forming visible distortions in space around the system. The Void Leviathan's warnings became more urgent and it started transmitting detailed star charts, showing safe routes away from the storm's path. Danny worked frantically to translate the creature's increasingly complex messages. "Captain, the Leviathan is sharing centuries of knowledge about cosmic phenomena. It's been traveling through space for thousands of years and it's encountered these storms before. What is it telling us?" Jake asked while watching the space around them begin to warp and twist. "It's providing escape routes and safe coordinates for every ship in the area," Danny replied with amazement. "The creature is trying to save everyone, even the hegemony ships that were trying to destroy it. The Star Wanderer, a passenger liner carrying families to new colonies, began experiencing severe turbulence as dark matter waves washed over their position. The Void Leviathan immediately responded by moving closer to the civilian ship and extending some kind of protective energy field around the vessel. "This is incredible," Amy said while studying the readings from her engineering station. "The creature is using its bioelectric abilities to create a shield that deflects the dark matter. It's literally protecting that passenger ship with its own body." More civilian vessels began arriving in response to the emergency transmissions, but instead of finding a simple rescue operation, they discovered themselves in the path of a cosmic disaster. The Void Leviathan worked tirelessly to guide each ship to safety while continuing to broadcast warnings about the storm's intensity. "The creature is exhausted," Kevin announced with concern. "It just spent months trapped and tortured, then used enormous energy to help with its own rescue, and now it's trying to protect dozens of ships from a cosmic storm. Its vital signs are showing dangerous levels of stress." Jake realized that the ancient being they had saved was now sacrificing itself to protect others, including the very people who had abandoned it to die. The Void Leviathan's actions showed a level of compassion and forgiveness that put most civilized species to shame. The dark matter storm continued to intensify as it approached the inner system, threatening to destroy everything in its path unless the ancient creature's warnings were finally heeded by those who had dismissed it as a dangerous pest. The dark matter storm erupted into full force as waves of invisible energy swept through the star system, causing space itself to ripple and twist. The Void Leviathan positioned itself at the center of the growing fleet of human ships, using its massive body and bioelectric abilities to create a protective barrier against the cosmic phenomenon that threatened to destroy everything in its path. Captain Jake Morrison watched in amazement as more and more vessels arrived in response to the emergency broadcasts. Word had spread throughout human space about the rescue mission, and ships were coming from every direction to help. Cargo haulers, research vessels, passenger liners, and even a few military escorts had abandoned their original missions to assist with the crisis. "Captain, I'm reading over 30 human ships in the area now," Lisa Carter announced while coordinating communications between the growing fleet. "They're all following the Void Leviathan's navigation guidance to stay safe from the storm effects." The massive creature's bioluminescent patterns had evolved into a complex display that served as both a warning beacon and a navigation aid. The ancient being was sharing thousands of years of knowledge about cosmic phenomena to help the human ships survive the dark matter storm. Danny Rodriguez continued his translation work and made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain, the Leviathan is trying to tell us something important about itself. It's not just a space-dwelling creature, it's a guardian. These beings have been traveling through the galaxy for millions of years, protecting younger species from cosmic disasters." "A guardian?" Jake asked while watching the creature extend its protective energy field to cover more ships. "The Void Leviathans are living libraries," Danny explained excitedly. "They store the knowledge and memories of countless civilizations, traveling between star systems to share information and provide warnings about cosmic threats. They've been trying to protect the galaxy for eons." Kevin Walsh monitored the creature's vital signs with growing concern. "The Leviathan is pushing itself beyond its limits. It's using enormous amounts of energy to maintain the protective field, while still recovering from months of imprisonment and torture." Admiral Raxler hegemony ships found themselves caught at the edge of the storm's effects, their advanced technology useless against the dark matter waves that were disrupting every system they relied upon. The Admiral's pride finally cracked when his flagship began losing structural integrity. "Human vessel," came the Admiral's reluctant transmission. "Our ships are failing and we require assistance to escape the storm effects." Jake felt a moment of satisfaction but quickly pushed aside any thoughts of revenge. "Admiral, follow the navigation data that the Void Leviathan is broadcasting. It will guide you to safety. You would help us after we tried to destroy you?" Admiral Raxler asked with surprise. "That's what the Leviathan is doing," Jake replied while thinking about the creature's incredible compassion. "It's protecting everyone regardless of how they treated it. Maybe we can learn something from that example." The hegemony ships reluctantly followed the ancient creature's guidance and found themselves safely within the protective energy field. Admiral Raxler's vessels joined the growing fleet of human ships that had gathered around their unlikely savior. Amy Foster worked with engineers from other ships to coordinate their efforts in supporting the exhausted Leviathan. "Captain, several ships are offering to share power with the creature. We might be able to reduce the strain on its systems." "Do it," Jake ordered while watching the Void Leviathan's protective displays beginning to flicker with exhaustion. Dozen human vessels began transmitting carefully modulated energy directly to the ancient being, sharing their power to help maintain the protective barrier. The creature's bioluminescent patterns brightened in response and seemed to pulse with gratitude for the assistance. The dark matter storm reached its peak intensity, creating visible distortions in space that looked like giant black clouds shot through with streaks of impossible colors. Without the Void Leviathan's protection and guidance, every ship in the area would have been torn apart by gravitational forces and exotic particle bombardment. "The storm is starting to pass," Danny announced after analyzing the creature's latest data transmissions. "According to the Leviathan's calculations, we should be clear of the worst effects within the next 2 hours." Ryan Clark, a communications specialist from the cargo ship Plains Runner, managed to establish a clearer translation protocol with the Void Leviathan. "Captain Morrison, the creature is sharing more of its history with us. It says there are others of its kind scattered throughout the galaxy, all trying to warn different species about various cosmic threats. And most species have been treating them as pests or dangers," Jake said with shame as he realized how wrong the galactic community had been about these ancient guardians. The Galactic Council finally responded to the crisis by sending a fleet of ships to investigate the reports of a dark matter storm. When they arrived, they found dozens of human vessels safely protected by a creature they had dismissed as worthless. The evidence of the Void Leviathan's protective actions was impossible to ignore. Admiral Raxler transmitted a formal message to the Galactic Council admitting that the Hegemony fleet had been wrong about the Void Leviathans. "The creature we imprisoned was attempting to warn us about this cosmic disaster. If the humans had not rescued it, hundreds of ships and thousands of lives would have been lost." As the dark matter storm finally passed, the Void Leviathan's bioluminescent patterns shifted to display what could only be described as contentment and joy. The ancient being had successfully protected dozens of ships and proven that its species were guardians rather than threats. The Galactic Council issued formal apologies for their treatment of the Void Leviathans and established new protocols for responding to distress calls from any sentient being. The Council also recognized Captain Morrison and his crew as heroes for their refusal to abandon a creature in need, the Void Leviathan, whom the humans had started calling Harmony Dew, to its musical communications, chose to remain near human space as an ambassador for its species. The ancient creature began sharing its vast knowledge with human scientists, teaching them about cosmic phenomena and the history of the galaxy. Jake stood on the bridge of the Liberties Edge watching Harmony swim gracefully through space near Earth's outer colonies. The massive creature's bioluminescent patterns created beautiful displays against the stars, its songs of knowledge and hope broadcasting across human space. "Captain," Lisa called out from her communications station, "we're receiving reports of another distress signal from the far side of the galaxy. It appears to be coming from a different type of space-dwelling creature that other species have written off as dangerous." Jake smiled as he realized that their mission was far from over. "Set course for the signal's location. It looks like we have another rescue to attempt." The Liberty's Edge turned toward the unknown reaches of space while Harmony's song followed them, a melody of gratitude and encouragement that reminded them that every life was worth saving. The humans had proven that compassion could triumph over fear and that sometimes the greatest threats to the galaxy came not from the creatures others feared, but from the willingness to abandon those who needed help. In the years that followed, humanity became known throughout the galaxy as the species that refused to give up on anyone, earning them the friendship of ancient guardians and the respect of civilizations that had learned to listen when someone called for help.